Hello, everyone. I'm Natalia. Welcome to the Be Elite podcast, and I will let Mr. Smith take it from here. Take it away, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Natalia. Yes, welcome everybody. We have a very special episode today. We're super excited for it. We have a special guest, one of our awesome school counselors, Miss Ramirez, is joining us. Welcome, Miss Ramirez.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Like I said before, this is my first podcast, so it's exciting for sure.
We're so happy you could be here. I know that your schedule is incredibly busy, so thank you for coming and joining our students to talk about a very, very big topic. And it's one that so here at the Be Elite podcast, the students come up with the topics that we go over. So this is one that students brought to the table and voted on, and it was the most popular topic for us to do. So today we're going to talk about mental health awareness, and it's everywhere, and it's something that we want to learn more about. So Ms. Ramirez, if you can kind of give us a little overview of the importance of mental health awareness in our society.
And so everyone at Elite has two school counselors, right? You have myself, and then you have Miss Nicole Lively. I don't know if anyone of you have ever spoken to her, but we both have so many resources to share with you all. And I don't know if Mr. Smith, I can maybe share my screen and like go through our counseling website so that the students can see what resources we have available. Could I do that?
That'd be fantastic. I made screen sharing possible, so go for it.
So this is our counseling department's website. We have so many resources on our page available to you all. We have Care Solace. So Care Solace is an agency that can link our families and students to outside mental health support, right? If anyone ever feels like they need that added support, we can go ahead and refer you through Care Solace. Then we have our referral form. So if you want to refer yourself, or you want to talk to a TOR and have them refer you, then you could access the referral form through that link there. What school counselors do, kind of like a broad overview of the type of supports that we provide as school counselors. If you could scroll down, Mr. Smith, our transcript request, and then a little bit about each of us, and then you can make appointments with us there. So I'm really excited to be here, as I said before, open to answering any questions that you all might have about mental health awareness in general. Yeah, so I guess I'll open it up to questions at this time.
Right, and students, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask. And I have some questions as well, but I'll let students take their first try at it. So go right ahead.
Well, I do have a question. So about the counseling, would it be like on a Zoom? Like, how would you explain to like someone, like if they wanted to get counseling at Elite though?
I think you were a little glitchy, but I think what you're asking is what school counseling looks like in general, in particular in this virtual setting. So we have individual counseling, and then we're going to start offering group counseling as well. So individual counseling is a one-on-one meeting with your school counselor through Zoom, right? So we can get that set up, just based on what your availability looks like. And then group counseling is the same, but you will be with other students sort of struggling with the same academic or social emotional concerns, and everything is done through Zoom. I hope that answered your question.
It did, thank you. Sorry, I was breaking up.
Okay.
No worries, it's all the storms we're having, don't worry. All right, anybody else have a question, or should I jump into our board that we made? So one of them is, let me make sure I'm not muted. I'm not muted. Perfect. So how do you feel that people with mental disabilities are treated in today's society, and do you think it's fair? What do you think about that, Ms. Ramirez?
I think we've come a long way from how mental disabilities and mental illnesses were perceived in the past. So in the early 19th century, there was not a lot of understanding of it. And so care was minimal, and it was not holistic, and it was just not very good. Now I think people have at least a basic understanding of more common mental health issues, such as depression, such as anxiety, right? And so more and more people are becoming open and willing to seek help and treatment. Another difference is that now mental health therapy and mental health counseling is more community-based. So in the past, it was very individualized. So just the therapist and the client, right? Now it's the therapist, the client, and typically the therapist will also want to speak with the client support system, right? So parents, friends, other mental health providers to provide support and to collaborate with other people to provide the best support for that person, right? So it's changed a lot. I think we're definitely moving in the right direction.
Oh, I just want to build on to that question about like, because I know there's this stigma about like sorry, I just saw something, but there's like the stigma about mental health, like mental health in general. So how would you explain to someone who thinks like badly of mental health and those resources, how would you explain to them that it's good and it's good for like the students and good for everyone?
Yeah, I think a lot of the stigma could be cultural. Some cultures don't understand it as well, right? So part of it is just having, I think, an open conversation of what the mental health concern is, right? So I know there were questions about, and I'm going to jump into some of the questions that I saw on the board, but questions about ADHD, questions about autism, and those are very specific mental health concerns. They need to be diagnosed, right? So it takes a lot of people to help that individual understand their diagnosis. So like I said, it's a lot of just really going through the criteria of what it means to have that diagnosis, and just working, like I said, collaboratively with everyone in that person's support system.
Thank you. And I think we have Matthias up next.
Yes, I would like to explain, just to support Mrs. Ramirez's claim on autism about a recent experiment I had. I was at the park. There was this man, he had a son. His son had autism and he could not talk. He did understand the people's names, how they were reacting around him, but he could not talk. So he'd just make noises and giggle. And I slowly came to understand how interesting autism really is, because at first autism wasn't on my list of most dangerous mental health things, but then I realized it can really cut you off on how you do in life.
And to add on to what Matthias was saying, so autism is a diagnosis, right, of it's a developmental disorder. So this impedes people's ability to communicate with others persistently, right? And could also include repetitive behaviors like hand flapping, and then just like sounds that they make repeatedly. So it can really impede a person's functioning. And so I'm going back to my previous point that I made to Cindy, where it's all of our jobs to really educate people on what a mental health concern is, what a mental illness is, right? So if someone doesn't understand autism, right, I would recommend that you all do your research, really read up on it. And so when you see someone making fun of someone for having autism, right, or engaging in repetitive behaviors or not being able to communicate, really educate that person on what it means and how it's impacting their daily life.
It's a really good point.
It must
I'm
be
very
even more difficult. So,
yeah, and I mean, back to what you were saying, Mr. Ramirez, how you said how it's come a long way in, you know, the way society and our communities treat those who may have disabilities. I have a twin brother who's autistic, so I grew up my whole life, you know, seeing the mistreatment of him. And working in education since 2002, I've seen it slowly get better, and we start to recognize that it's nothing to fear, and you know, it's not something you can catch. It's people think differently and they process differently. It doesn't make them any different, or I mean, or any worse or better as a person. It just, that's just the way they are. They think and process differently than we do, and it always fascinated me. He has a photographic memory, so he's far smarter than I could ever hope to reach. He can memorize maps and books and anything, but you know, it's, I think, like you said, it's understanding that and helping people to understand that it's okay, you know, and there's resources out there also to help. And I know that there are a lot of resources to help people with different mental disorders or disabilities, and I'm just thankful that we're in a society where that's happening now. And you know, like you said, not back in the old days when people were just shunned, and it's pretty
Definitely.
sad.
And people were shunned because, like I said, they didn't understand it. And they were scared, right? Like, why is that person behaving that way? What does that mean? Right? It was scary, or like you said, they thought they might catch it, right? Because people nowadays understand it a lot more. They're a lot more open to having those conversations and seeking help.
Absolutely. And Katerina, I see you're next.
yeah. So my younger brother, he has autism, but he really likes movies. So whenever he sees a new movie, he loves it and he gets everything. Like there's a new Mario movie coming out.
Oh, she froze.
Oh no. We'll see if she
I
calls
think I know
back
what
in.
Mario movie she's talking about.
Yeah.
But I think she's getting to the point that you were making, Mr. Smith, about how easily they can remember things and like that memory that they have. I think that's what she was.
Absolutely. And you know, like she said, how he, you know, he lights up, you know, watching movies and whatnot. I really think that people that see the world differently, you know, when, if you have, you know, autism or something like that, you often have a better appreciation for life and for happiness. Because I mean, Mr. Ramirez, when you get to, you know, a point like me and you know, we're working individuals and we have the stress of bills and work and this and that, and they see the world differently. And I've always thought that's pretty cool, like to see it so pure and unfiltered, like what we get right now as adults, you know. All right, let's see. Katerina, are you back with us?
Yeah, sorry, I glitched out. I don't know how.
Yep, we heard you say the Mario movie and then it cut out. So if you want to continue your thought, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, so anyways, he really likes like movie theaters, and he used to like airplanes like JetBlue and stuff. So he was really excited, and I'm glad I have him as my brother too.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, they all have like very specific interests, and they usually don't deviate too much from that interest that they have. But I was just telling Mr. Smith before you froze that what I think you were getting at is like that amazing memory that they have. So I thought you were going to say that he had memorized all of the lines in that Mario movie. Because that is something that I do know about autism, is that they have really great memory, especially if they take a lot of interest in that specific thing. They'll memorize it almost immediately.
Absolutely. We have Natalia up next.
So I have a little something called ADHD, and that basically means it's hard for me to focus on anything, and I get hyper when I'm sitting in a chair. I twiddle with my thumbs, that kind of stuff. And whenever I'm talking to my parents or anybody, I'm like staring off in the distance. I'm like, I never noticed that painting before. Wow. And they're like, hey, are you listening to me? I'm like, no, sorry. It's hard. And like how you were saying about memory lines to movies a lot, like I remember almost every single line of every SpongeBob episode from season 1 through 3. I remember every single line. It gets stuck in my head constantly. It's tough to live with ADHD, but it's hard to get over and everything, but I'm sure I'll overcome it a little bit, and I'll be able to control it and focus more on things. I'll get a well-paying job in the future.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, there is a lot of treatment options for individuals with ADHD as well as autism, right? So it is something that people can work through, something that people can manage. So I would just encourage you to have those conversations with your parents to find what the best option is for you, right? Based on what your needs are. But I do understand that it can be very difficult to live with because it really interferes with your daily functioning, right? Like not being able to fully focus on anything. Maybe there's like some anxiety, right? Like you said, I think that you were fidgeting. So that's very anxiety based, right? So it can be very difficult to live with autism and ADHD, but there's lots of resources because like I said, we understand it a lot more now. So please have those conversations with those trusted adults in your life that can get you the support that you need.
Absolutely. Matthias, you had a comment next.
I have a question for Katarina and Natalia. I would like to know, Katarina, how you and your brother can communicate very well.
Yeah.
Natalia, I would like to know, is it true? Some people say ADHD can easily be like suppressed with soda. Is it true?
Oh, soda. I think it makes me a little bit more hyper, and then I have a sugar crash.
I was gonna say, I mean, I don't know much about that, but soda has a lot of caffeine, so I feel like that would be more anxiety for the person.
There are theories out there. People are saying like sodas like Coca-Cola and Pepsi are helping people with ADHD like suppress the feeling.
Well, I think they always have like tales about soda, like you drink soda when you have like a stomach flu or when you're sick, which doesn't really help. It's just a myth.
But I also want
Usually,
that, every person is very different. So it might work for one person and it might not work for the other person, right? So again, like these are things that need to be discussed with the team, right? With the person's doctor, with the person's parents, and the rest of the team. It's
So Natalia, how did you find out you had ADHD?
I think it was around when I was maybe 4th grade. I think that's when I was talking to my parents about it because my dad also has ADHD. So I think that's kind of how I figured it out. And just how I wasn't able to focus at anything at all. But there was like very certain things that my brain would be picky about, and it's like, you're gonna focus on this. I'm like, why can't I just focus on math and get like an A in math or something?
So it's like you don't have control over what you do.
Yeah, like my brain's like focused on this certain video game task, and I'm like, why can't I focus more on school and not this?
Why am I so why does this sound me? Why are you This is interesting. I want to know if I have ADHD.
do you think like illnesses like stress and anxiety and depression, do you think those things build up over time? like over years until like they get severe, or do you
Stress,
think they?
anxiety, and depression, you said?
Mhm.
Good, for sure, but other times it doesn't take much, right? It's very different for every person. Yeah, you will see some people that, or you will know some people that have a lot of challenges in their daily life, but because they have such great coping skills and such supportive people around them, will be able to manage it just fine, right? Some people might not have that, and will have a harder time managing all of those things. So it's so different for everybody.
Oh, I do have a question though about stress. Is it considered a mental health illness, or is it just?
Stress.
Mhm.
Stress is not considered a mental health illness. We all have certain levels of stress, right? We all go through it. I think Mr. Smith does too. I do. It becomes a concern when it reaches a level where we can no longer function in our daily life. That's when I would say stress can be more related to generalized anxiety, which is a mental health illness.
Because I hear a lot of times people like put the two together, stress and anxiety.
Mm-hmm. They are very closely related. But again, we all have stress, so we can't call it a mental illness until it interferes with our functioning. Yeah, I mean, we all have stress. So like that's why I've been talking about coping skills, because if we're able to incorporate those on a regular basis, it really helps decrease some of that stress that you feel. I can say similar, like I know people, so depression and sadness, right? They sound similar, but it's not. Most of us we've all experienced sadness, right? Different times in our life. It doesn't become depression until it severely impacts our daily functioning. So that's why I wouldn't say that stress is a mental illness.
Thank you for that. We have two more, and then I have one more thing I want to ask you at the end, and then we'll wrap up. First up is Annabelle.
I don't know much about mental disabilities, so what is everything that can happen when you have mental disabilities?
There are so many different mental illnesses and mental disabilities. So it really depends on what the person is diagnosed with. For example, if I'll just talk about eating disorders, right? So with an eating disorder that is impacting the person's eating, which you can understand that would have a lot of physical consequences, right? Like the person will become sick, either become extremely overweight or extremely underweight. They are usually very perfectionistic, so they will be experiencing lots of anxiety, right? And they also tend to have really low self-esteem, so we'll go through periods of depression as well, right? So that's one example. Those are eating disorders, but every mental health illness has its own like you said, different things that can happen based on what the diagnosis is. And based on the treatment that the person is receiving, I also want to add that if they're receiving treatment, they'll be able to manage those things a lot better.
Thank you. Matthias, you're next.
I kind of forgot what I was gonna say.
That's okay. Well then I'll go ahead, and I got one more thing I wanted to add, and it was on the side that we started with, because we've been talking about disabilities, but we've also been talking about, like mental health, like if you're feeling sad or if you're feeling stressed or whatnot. And I want to just really make that point that if you do need help, reach out for help. And we have counselors that are here. You see right here, we have ways for you to reach out. Your referral forms, you have to make an appointment for each of our counselors. We have Miss Lively and Mr. Ramirez, and they're here to help our students. And I mean, your teachers are always here to help as well. We all want to see you succeed, but these are our specialists when it comes to issues that might be out of a teacher's realm. So please don't hesitate to reach out. It happens. Sometimes we feel down, or we feel, life stacks up on us and we're like, well, it's stress.
It
Make an
happens to
appointment.
the best of us. For sure.
Ooh, yes, it does. It doesn't
I
get
want to
easy.
say, right? I mean, I get stressed too. I get sad too, right? So it's important for all of us to be taking care of ourselves. And it's important for all of us to be reaching out when we're not feeling the greatest. But again, really want to make sure you all are engaging in self-care activities on a regular basis, right? So drawing, watching funny videos, whatever you do to take care of yourself, you should be engaging in those activities regularly, to take care of your mental health. One other thing I wanted to mention is there is an event coming up in April called Mind Out Loud. And they have students from all over, I believe, the state, joining and talking about mental health. So I'll look for the link right now and drop it in the chat. And then Mr. Smith, if you want to go ahead and share your screen.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Well, I also wanted to add it because I know some people may think that like they're weak for reaching out for help, but they're not. Or like if they feel like overwhelmed by life, it's not really because you can't handle it. It's just that's what happens to everyone. And also, I think we should put the link in the description to everything, like from that thing and also the other things, so they can find it. And probably the
Absolutely.
emails of the counselors as well.
Absolutely. We'll put all that in.
Will you
that in the
email it to
description.
all of us too, so we don't forget about it?
I will. I'll send it to all of you.
Thank you.
For saying that, Cindy. Yes, it's nothing to be ashamed of, right? We all have to ask for help sometimes. None of us have all the answers, right? So sometimes we need to ask other people.
Absolutely. And if anybody tells you they've made it through this world without getting help from anybody else, they're lying. Because yeah, we all need each other. That's what we do. We're a community. We help each other. And so here is Mind Out Loud right there, April 27th. So I'll make sure this will be in the link if you're watching it on YouTube. And podcast students, I will send this to you right after our recording. So this seems like a really great thing for students to be a part of. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Ramirez. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your insight and information. I know our students appreciate it as well. And students, don't hesitate to reach out to Ms. Ramirez or Ms. Lively. They are here to help, and we're lucky to have two amazing counselors such as Ms. Ramirez and Ms. Lively. So thank you for that. And with that, Natalia, do you want to go ahead and close us out?
Sure. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed our talk.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody, take care.